yet another fascinating Sidney Breakfast Club after hours interview. We're tending to do many more of these now from the successful morning activity. What happens once a month, and I've encouraged folks to now jump on afterwards and start to let the community know what you do. Jason, you and I go back quite a ways. Thanks for joining us today.
John, it's my pleasure. And yes, please do not remind me how far back we go.
Yeah, right. You still have hair. What happened? What were you eating or drinking that I didn't?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think you always look to your father's or your mother's father for where your hair is going to come from. So
Oh
I will say
gosh.
thank you to Walter Wilkinson for good hair.
Oh, oh, that's great. Yeah, that I do still get my 8 or 9 strands of hair cut every month just to keep it nice and tight.
There you go.
Today we're going to talk about something that many people don't want to talk about.
Hmm.
Today we're going to be referencing some things that folks hide or they suppress, and
Hmm.
that is a lot of things. You are somebody who deals with those things. You are a psychotherapist, specializing in working with business owners these days, and that's one of the reasons the Sydney Breakfast Club is so busy, is
Hmm.
because people are so anxious about these times. They're so uncertain.
Hmm.
You and I have worked through likely 7 recessions in our friendship.
Indeed.
And in every one of those, there was some sense of kind of we knew what to have happen. There would have to be some monetary, policy changes, fiscal changes, something would have to happen. These days, you don't know what is going to happen the next hour. Maybe at the end of this interview, there might be some change. That is extraordinarily difficult to run a business, let alone run a life.
Hmm.
So I've asked you to come on board and just open that can of worms, please, that I think almost everybody insists is closed. And it manifests itself, I likely, in so many ways. So let's start, and maybe we could do something every 3 or 4 months where we reflect on the kind of business anxiety in the community.
Yeah, let's all take a deep breath, right?
Right? Right? Yes. Or 20. So tell us what you do, how you help people. What are some of the anecdotes? Maybe people reflect to the case study stuff.
Well, I think, John, you put it right, is that unlike many of the other turning points economically in our history, the unknowns here are substantial. And, it's not a clinical definition of anxiety, but I always like to define anxiety as something important is going to happen and you don't know what the outcome is going to be. And if you think about our current times, that's happening on both a meta level and on a personal level, where the world is upside down, gas prices are crazy, food is expensive, there's simultaneous wars going on in several parts of the world. That in itself is anxiety inducing. But the trickle down effects of all of that, which we see in the Sydney Breakfast Club as we talk to manufacturers and business owners there around their personal anxiety about what that's going to mean for their business. Are their costs going to go up? Will they be able to find housing for their employees here on the peninsula? That anxiety is a more personal anxiety. And so they're kind of getting the double tap, so to speak, of anxiety. And, thank you for asking. The work that I do primarily with business owners is giving them somebody to talk to who's been in business before and can kind of bring both worlds together, the world of the counselor or therapist and the mental health advocate and the world of somebody who spent 30 years working in a corporate environment and knows all about those anxieties, both as an employer, as a senior leader, and as a grunt in the trenches.
So these are the kind of things my generation, okay? I know you all think I'm only 39 years old, but in fact, I'm not. I'm turning 67 in about 3 weeks. So let's call that boomers. And they're one could I think be safe in generalizing that the boomer male
Mhm.
tends to hide or suppress or not talk about their feelings.
Mhm.
I don't know if that exists with other generations. Is it gender unique? I don't know.
Mhm.
But I myself would tend to not want to admit to anyone that I'm anxious. I would not want to admit to anyone that I'm vulnerable. I
Mhm,
would not want to admit to anyone that I'm scared. So
mhm,
how do you get over that barrier, Jason, to get to you and
mhm.
likely have a fabulous, healthy, healing conversations?
Well, and I think that you hit the nail on the head there, John, when it comes to who you want to talk to about that kind of stuff. As a business owner's in a unique spot and that the buck stops with them. So it's not like they can talk to their employees if they're feeling anxious about the success of the business.
That's right.
There'd be a panic. And, if they're in a startup business that's got some venture funding, it's not likely going to talk to the people who are funding them. They're investors.
Mm,
Again, why, who wants to panic them? And, then if you come home and you have your partner, you're not likely going to want to talk to them about what's going on in your business because you don't want to panic them because they're expecting, in many cases, they're expecting you to live up to your end of the bargain in terms of being your share of the provider with the household. What a mess.
yeah,
What a
exactly.
dilemma. And I think that, to your point, generations of men have learned from their fathers that the way to be a man is to be stoic and to be strong and silent, and keep it all inside. And as a result, the what usually happens then is that, that kind of stuff, when you keep it covert, ends up becoming overt at when things go sideways. Big life transitions like divorce, death of a parent, getting fired from your job or losing your company. That's when you see men of all generations, but particularly an older generation, uh, come undone. Alcoholism, gambling, infidelity, um, you know, uh,
Everything, you name it.
and in business, making decisions they shouldn't be making.
Yes, absolutely. I did have occasion to get some counseling much, much earlier in my life.
Mhm,
And what resonated with me was how impactful that was, and how really, really opening your
mhm,
what's the word, your walls, opening your heart to things that were extraordinary, really. And do you find that like
mhm,
it was almost um man, I can still feel it. I was I
mhm,
people probably know that's going to happen. We're gonna open up
mhm,
a scenario where, geez, I don't want to talk about what my dad said to me 48 bazillion years ago. I don't want to talk about that event that
mhm,
happened to me when,
mhm,
well, guess what? You kind of do. At least
mhm,
I think so. That's what happened to me. And then I was able to disassociate from that moment.
mhm,
Um, so if someone is just saying, I'd like to see Jason.
mhm,
Are you able to provide what actually happens, Jason, in
mhm.
that process? What is the, like, you don't get just hit on the head, do you, right away?
No, and thank you for asking it. And John, I could really feel you remembering that moment. Oh my
Oh,
goodness. I mean,
it's like
it's
right
like
now.
it, yeah, exactly. And more of those moments is what we're hoping that, men and business leaders especially can tap into because it can be really powerful. To answer your question directly, the a man or a business owner who's coming to talk to me for the first time, the first thing they're going to want to do is establish some sort of rapport or feel safe. Again, they want to be able to talk to somebody and feel like it's confidential, feel like they're being heard and being seen, and that it's okay for them to talk about stuff they don't talk about other people, talk with other people about. So that's step one. And depending on, whether we're talking about something that happened with your dad 48 years ago or something your business partner said this morning, building that trust can take a little bit. Uh,
Yes.
and from that point on, the process of kind of discovering who you are, and who you want to be going forward is a little bit like two steps forward, one step back.
Mm.
Where the ideal thing is to create an environment where the person that I'm talking to feels safe to share something, even if it's a little scary. And guaranteed that when somebody shares something that's a little scary, they're going to feel not safe there for a bit. And so we'll retreat away from that and talk about stuff that's a little more banal and something that's not quite so difficult. And then maybe in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, come back to the something that they've been dealing with that's a little bit difficult. And this kind of process it that way, never moving beyond. In psychotherapy, they have a phrase that's called the window of tolerance, where the person you're talking to is not too low, where they're not able to participate in the process, or not too high where they're manic and they can't keep themselves under control. You want them in that window. And that's the gentle process that I go through and most therapists go through, quite frankly, is creating that space for somebody to come in and say, here's who I am today.
Yeah.
Help me.
Um, this is amazing, and to so many, to such a large degree, I think. Um, Type A men, of which I will easily categorize myself as,
Mhm,
I think no one would dispute that. Uh, Many of us have these ruckus relationships with our fathers,
mhm,
and it's defined most of our life's
mhm,
behavior. And so it certainly did mine.
mhm,
Eastern European man. So so as a business person, I think not only would someone get comfort from the dialogue we've just had, but maybe you could go again review, you know, sort of it. I think there'd be some comfort level on a business to business. What
mhm,
is your what is your background with business? I know it's extensive, but it
mhm.
would be worth folks hearing that.
Well, thank you for asking. And you're right. I think the ability to talk like somebody who's been in the trenches
Mm,
helps.
yeah.
I began my business career working in Southern California right after college with a company called 3E Company, and I was the 20th employee there in this environmental technology company. And when I left 11 years later, there was 175 employees, and I had the opportunity to be, I lobbied the government to change the regulations to benefit our company. I managed large IT projects. I am not I am a one generation behind you, so I'm Gen X, not Boomer.
Mhm.
But I'm old enough to know that when technology in those days was fax machines turning into CD-ROMs. And so, I lobbied the government to make changes to that technology. I helped them design their very first SaaS-based data system. So I saw that company grow, be acquired, be taken private, and then be acquired again. Uh, Once I moved to British Columbia and Victoria, I had a chance to work for about five different technology companies, almost all of them based out of here in Victoria.
Oh, great. Okay.
And then in between there, had a stint in what I'll call traditional media, working for the Times Colonist as the
Right
director of
on.
sales and advertising.
Yes.
And I tell you, John, what a contrast between working in the tech world, where you work in Victoria but sell around the world,
Right.
to the Times Colonist, where every single client was within 20 miles of your office,
But
right? And you got the joy of getting to know people whose name was on the door. So
yeah.
if you were selling to Dodd's Furniture, you were talking to Gordy or Love Dodd,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? Yeah, and
Well,
if you were talking to if it's Rafael and Brown, you were talking to Nigel Brown.
right. Right.
And that was the great part about doing business locally, and I think that you've tapped into that a little bit with the Sidney Breakfast Club, is that, it can be a small community, and the peninsula can be even smaller. But the
Well,
ability to connect and work together can be a real strength. And I think that for the purposes of this conversation, the thing that's lacking, that you guys with the Vancouver Island Manufacturing Alliance and other things you're doing through Breakfast Club, is creating, it's a business form of a men's club. Even though there are men and women as part of it, it's people who have similar issues, similar goals, wanting to get together and look around and go, I am not the only one.
yeah,
I am struggling with stuff, and so is that guy over there, and we can help each other.
the name um continues after almost 30 years of being around,
Mhm,
starting as literally a breakfast. Well, I mean, folks met over breakfast at in the Sydney hotel. I think it
mhm,
was I forget the name there. It was something with S. Anyway, continue to this day. Folks think it's a group of no. There's almost 100 people now,
Hmm.
and that sort of increase. It doubled after Trump got in. I mean, Trump is a direct result of doubling the size of this group. Obviously, literally the most manic, insane person we've had in our history, in our living history,
Hmm.
uh, as a politician, and so it's not something we've necessarily done. I haven't done anything differently.
Yep.
It's just that
Mhm.
there's this high level of need. So for dialogue. So is it a breakfast club? Technically, but it is more an incubator. It is more like you said, men's club, a people's club. It's not necessarily this just sort of jovial share eggs. There's some serious stuff going on, and in terms of people's progress, in terms of people's mental health, in terms of people's business health, it's a great place to come. So you offering to explain what you do, I think is going to be an increasingly more important part of the networking in this group. And there are others that are in the club that are within your sector, so to speak, right?
Yeah, there are, executive coaches, employee consultants, leadership consultants who do everything from, working with your teams to work on, things like compatibility and transparency, and coaches who work with, individual executives on specific skills around people management and leadership, and all of them. I've had a pleasure to sit and have breakfast with most of them, and I always take something away from each one of them as I'm having breakfast. And so I think the value there to the broader Sydney Breakfast Club is pretty large.
I don't think this anxiety is going to end within the next 2 or 3 years. And so this is a very important conversation
Yeah.
and very important for people to know who they might access if they're
Hmm.
starting to bulge over with their coping
Hmm.
mechanisms. And so I will have your contact information here, certainly all around this with this Zoom call, is which how we do some conversations these days.
Hmm.
And I would really appreciate, Jason, if we could maybe do a few more folks, if you don't mind. I always want to have you there, and we
Sure.
just talk about different elements of this. Am I fair in characterizing this as a sort of a societal anxiety, or how would you characterize it?
Absolutely. In fact, I would go so far as to say that this predates Trump.
Oh,
It,
wow.
well,
Wow.
let me take that back. It predates Trump too,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
because I think we're still not quite out of COVID yet in
It might
terms
never be. Our
in terms
generation
of
might never be.
the impact that had on
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
society and the younger generation coming up who grew up sheltered and isolated and disconnected on purpose to save their lives. You combine that with the technology and the use of cell phones and the friction-free way that people can live their lives without having to go to the grocery store because everything will get delivered, without having to go on a date because you can just do it online, without having to meet somebody in person because you can do a Zoom call like we're doing now. It's been a time of a great disconnection,
Wow.
and for a human population that are social animals, what a travesty.
Oh,
And,
wow. That's a
and
whole show into itself. It never occurred to me.
no kidding. And we're still trying to dig out of that. And now we got the anxiety of Trump and the economics and the wars and everything that's going on around.
Wow. Well, Jason, you're going to have to tell me to stop because I want to talk more about this stuff in future shows.
You got it.
But I think this is a great introduction. Thank you. Thank you for, you know, you introduce yourself and others within your sector. And I know in my heart that this is something we need to talk about more and
Mhm.
admit that we're thinking these thoughts,
Mhm.
but it's hard to do in public. So this is a bridge. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, John. Anytime.
Okay, till next time. Take care.